your worth and your wholeness and your enoughness are inherent in your birthright. That is what's actually factual. That's what's actually truth with a TH at the end. It's the shit that's happened to you, the way you were raised, whether or not you were in an oppressive religion, what you believed about yourself growing up, all the things that, quote, happened that start to tick away at your belief in your inherent worth and your inherent wholeness. And we start to live life kind of building and then affirming these storylines and these belief structures, right? So the first thing is to realize, okay, wait a minute. The part of it that's incorrect and false is the fact that I've been playing the I'm not enough game this whole time. Wait a second. So what this woman is telling me is that what's real is I'm already enough. And what is false is all the things I've been believing up until now.
I want to welcome on my guest, Tracy Litt. She is a sought-after success mentor for visionary women leaders that are navigating huge paradigm shifts and elevating into the next level of themselves so that they can then seamlessly generate the next level of their impact, wealth, and holistic success. Tracy is a certified mindset coach, spiritual advisor, rapid transformational hypnotherapist, best-selling author, and TEDx speaker. She's the founder of the Litt Factor and creator of Mind Magic, a proven methodology that marries metacognition, spirituality, neuroscience, and quantum law to expand and elevate more quickly. She is best-selling author of Worthy Human in Spiritual Growth and Mindset, and Tracy is truly a powerhouse of energy, and her impact is undeniable. So welcome, Tracy Litt. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode on Passion, Love, Pursued. I was just talking with my guest today, Tracy Litt, that I'm just so honored to have her on the show after so many close friends of mine having you, first of all, on your show, and then also speaking so highly of you. I knew that it was about time I had the Tracy Litt on my podcast. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to hang out.
You're so welcome. Well, of course, we all have stories. So I always like to start off, of course, telling your story of kind of what led you or propelled you into what you do today. What was the catalyst for your transformation or change to now serve so many women in the work you do today? So if you could share a little bit of your story.
Such a big question. Why do I do what I do today, and what's really the crux of my story? I lost my mother when I was 24, and she was a women's empowerment teacher and spiritual leader towards the end of her life. So that kind of planted a seed. At 28, I found myself a single mother with an 8-month-old baby, realizing that the depth of my own unworthiness was so pervasive that I was squeezing round holes into square pegs and literally avoiding red flags that were smacking me in the face, tolerating and allowing things I never, ever, ever, I wouldn't let breathe past me now, what I tolerated back then. And the first part of my awakening came when I was crying on my garage floor when she was 8 months old. And total dark night of the soul despair, which was such a gift because in a lot of ways she saved me, my daughter, who's now 18 and in college. And that was the first time my higher self came through and very, very clearly called me out. And in the words that this is what it sounded like in my body, you have a choice. And you're either going to continue to be who you've been, or you are going to make some drastically new choices for you and that little girl inside. And that created a leap into becoming a vice president of HR over the course of 12 years. And then my higher self came back again. I was sitting in a very, very successful, over 6-figure career, working from home, doing my thing, and nothing was wrong except my soul was dying. And I knew that I was born to do massive things and that I had gifts that would help reach millions of people. But I was so afraid that I was paralyzed to change. And then she came back again and lovingly reminded me, you're going to die anyway. So since that's the only truth there is, what new choice are you going to make to really actually live into the potential that you possess? And that's when I took the leap and went to coaching school, manifested a layoff from my corporate job, went back, became a hypnotherapist, and it has been snowball hand over fist serving women across the globe ever since.
Amazing. You know, I think so many women can relate to this story. And I think so many people that are probably listening to this right now, men or women, how often have we felt that we're just not living our fullest potential? I think so many of us, especially for us creative women or, you know, visionary women, we see such a bigger picture than we're living. I know for myself, that is very much the truth. And to not feel fulfilled in our present days, that's something, either your higher self, God, or something trying to tell you, like, there's more for you. Now you just got to like reach out and grab it.
Mm-hmm.
But so many of us feel stuck. And I know that, you know, it's one thing to like, I've had that breaking moment where, and when you talk about worthiness, just so you know, I really relate to this because, and I think a lot of people truly can, because that whole self-worth, we are the ones that really hold us back. And it takes time to really like unravel that and like get to the root cause. Like, what is keeping me stuck? What is keeping me feeling like this, that I don't have the worth to grab what I want to grab? And so, speaking from my own personal experience, I know that I had the breaking moment where I'm like, okay, like I know the same thing keeps on happening. Like, I got to take a look within. If I don't change something, nothing's going to change. So I had to, you know, turn the mirror on myself and be like, okay, you're the common denominator of this whole situation that you've created in your life. Like, okay, so now I could do the most empowering thing, which is now have the choice to make the change and take responsibility for where I'm at today. So then I could take the responsibility of where I'm going to head.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is really powerful. So which goes to my first question is just like, you know, it's one thing to hear that voice. It's another thing to actually get out of that place. So how did you then move forward and actually create that change that's necessary? Because I think people hearing your story, they're like, okay, how? Where do I begin? How do I start to get unstuck in this place that I feel so unfulfilled?
Okay.
Mhm.
First thing I would like to invite all of the beautiful listeners into is you're not stuck. And you need to stop saying that you are, because that is one of the things I say. See a lot of things in the personal growth and development industry that I'm not down with. And one of them is this concept of stuckness. Because when you believe that you're stuck, you feel defeated and you are already starting behind the eight ball. Mm. When in actual fact, it's not that you're stuck. It's that you're being called to a different direction. You're being called to step it up. You're being called to go within and do the work on yourself so that you can heal the wounds that are driving the way that you see yourself in the world, so that you can learn how to think differently. Like our sole purpose, and I will die on the sword over this, our sole purpose is not external. It's not what we monetize. It doesn't live on a mountain somewhere that you need to go find. Your sole purpose as a spiritual being having a human experience is to go within and do the work. Healing, growing, expanding. And when you do that, everything changes as a response to the variable of you changing. What you think you want shifts. The way you see yourself shifts. The way you define success shifts. Your attachments, your boundaries, the way you think, what you believe about yourself, the way you play with fear, et cetera, right? So the first place we have to start is get out of low-level consciousness and stop saying you're stuck. You're not. Something isn't congruent. Something isn't working in your soul's alignment, and it's time for you to show up differently. That's all. And how much better does that feel? I'm stuck, I'm blocked. It's like, ugh, enough already. How do you feel about that as I say it to you?
I completely agree. The words we tell ourselves, like, oh, I just don't, I'm not there yet. I have to learn all these things. Like, you're putting those limitations and those are just stacking. So of course it's
Yeah.
weighing you down. And so
Yeah.
I love that that's definitely, I think that's one of the greatest steps is it stop saying where you're at, instead like start preaching like where you're going to be, if you want to say. I think that's super empowering. And I remember, this whole idea, I completely believe in the inner work. And I think, you and I are both in the personal development space, and we do the work because we know the value of it really rippling into every area of our life. And so I truly believe that as well. And, I think some of the people, when they hear the word work, it sounds like a big task, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do the work again, the worthy work. I know you call it this. And I think that's so true. It's overwhelming, but what a gift that we could improve ourselves and become this powerful woman we're destined to be. So I think it's a really beautiful perspective shift, as you mentioned. So being that it's called the worthiness work,
Mhm.
how do we really start to believe that we are worthy? I mean, I have my personal belief on this, like some ways I would think, but I'm curious, what would be some of your first steps you would guide people into really like authentically believing that they are worthy?
Mm. So the first thing is that it is first a decision, and then we do the work again and 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 again, right?
Yeah.
And the decision comes from this: your worth and your wholeness and your enoughness are inherent in your birthright. That is what's actually factual. That's what's actually truth with a TH at the end. It's the shit that's happened to you, the way you were raised, whether or not you were in an oppressive religion, what you believed about yourself growing up, all the things that, quote, happened that start to tick away at your belief in your inherent worth and your inherent wholeness. And we start to live life kind of building and then affirming these storylines and these belief structures, right? So the first thing is to realize, okay, wait a minute. The part of it that's incorrect and false is the fact that I've been playing the I'm not enough game this whole time. Wait a second. So what this woman is telling me is that what's real is I'm already enough, and what is false is all the things I've been believing up until now. And yes, and am I asking you to give me a blind leap of faith? I absolutely am. But I'm also the byproduct and the first piece of proof, which I will always be, which is what makes the work so palpable in my space, because I will never teach you or guide you through anything that I didn't taste test on myself first. Right? And then all my clients, just one after another, going, oh my God, you know how much energy I have when I wake up in the morning and I'm not trying to affirm my worth? Holy shit. Do you know what opens up for you when you're not constantly coming from the lens of I'm not enough? So the first piece is this decision to say, okay, just jump on my train. You are whole.
Mm-hmm.
You are worthy right now, simply by virtue of the fact that you're listening to this beautiful conversation. Let that land. Breathe it into your body. And then the worthiness work comes through going back and identifying what were some of the memories you hold where you felt unworthy, unseen, unsafe. Taking you back there, holding you, helping you realize that any other little human that was 3, 5, 7, 16, having those experiences would have made the same belief decisions as you did. I'm not enough. I don't matter. I'm not significant. My voice doesn't matter. Things of that nature. And then go back and tell that little you the truth. Right? And that's kind of the beginning. And then we get to go inside to our nervous systems and start to regulate and start to clean out some of what's being held cellularly in our bodies, because a wound occurs, like, let's even say it could be something like a big T trauma, like a sexual abuse. It could be a father left when you were 2. It could be didn't make the soccer team when you were 6, right? Whatever the spectrum of trauma, because everything's a trauma response. It's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing that in those moments, the trauma is the way your body physiologically responds to the thing that happened, the wound that occurred. And it is an imperative that we not only do the belief structure work and the mindset thought work, but we do the work of your body and your nervous system to let go of what it's holding on to, so that you can then ultimately think thoughts of wholeness and think thoughts of worthiness. That's why it's really important to work within a comprehensive framework that includes all of the elements of mind and body together. And that's how you then truly land in, yeah, I'm so whole, my world could implode and I could lose everything tomorrow and it wouldn't even impact me. And that's what I really want for especially, I specialize in serving women leaders and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You want to know when it starts to flow? When you're no longer using any of it to prove your worth. When you're not attached to any of it because you're whole, because you're Erica, and I'm whole because I'm Tracy, and like, that's just it. So
Beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful and powerful. Yes, I completely agree. I think all of us carry these limitations, and some of them are completely unknown to us because we're so on pattern loop over and over and over. And so when we do this inner work or worthiness work, it's really getting clarity, like, okay, let's be radically honest and really tap in, like, what are these limitations I hold? I know for myself, like, I couldn't speak well. That was one of my things, or I'm not smart enough. I have to keep learning and learning and learning. I can't remember things. That was my story. And that stemmed from a learning disability, that stemmed from a emotionally abusive relationship. And so those were informed. And so I had to work those out. And I also had to rewrite them to something that I could believe. And the way I personally did this, and tell me if this is something that you might teach. I personally, well, number one, I rewrite the story and enough that I could believe it, and then I reinforce it. And so the way I personally reinforce it is if I feel I am so bad at speaking or I can't remember things, what do? I start a podcast. That was like it wasn't my sole reason, but behind that reason was totally that. And I didn't really realize this till after, but you know what it gave me is the confidence that the more I do it over and over and over and over, I'm giving myself proof that, number one, I could get better and better and better. And also I'm telling myself that I could do hard things, and it gives me the courage to overwrite those fears that I can't. And so that's one of the things I tend to do a lot, that anything that I feel I'm challenged by or limited by, or my own limitations, because it's nobody else's, it's mine. I just say yes to the things that I know are going to push me over the edge to then smash those fears through courage. Right. So that's personally what I like to do, is just like say yes to the really hard things that I feel I can't do, and then prove myself, oh yeah, you can. And sometimes it's gonna be hard, but you know what? I could get better and better. And so
Right.
that
And that's
podcast.
actually one of to your point, you're onto something, because there's a lot of different ways to reprogram and play with like embedding new belief structures. But one of the most powerful ways is to embody the version of you that already believes that thing in action.
Absolutely.
Right. So to your point, it's like, great. Okay. If the version of me that is purely whole, inherently whole and worthy, she uses her voice and asks for what she wants. Well, then go do that, because the embodiment of that is going to anchor in the new belief.
I so agree with that. And I think that was very much when I would think about relationships. I remember thinking about, oh, okay, this is what I want in a man. This is what I desire in a relationship. And I would write all of it down, and then I would revisit it. And then I would think to myself, like, okay, I want these things, but am I embodying them? Like, am I embodying integrity, respect, worthiness, contribution, whatever I would write down. And then, some of those things would not be true. And so how could I expect to attract that, be in alignment with that, if I'm not being or becoming that woman that I see or want in somebody else? You know what I mean? So I think that's so beautiful when you think about, like, am I being the woman that feels worthy? Like, and how could I do that? How could I step into that? And I think that's really great, is like being it before you becoming it, before you become it.
that's the foundation of the work that we do. Everything is based in
Amazing.
what you do, right? So
Yeah.
when you cultivate, when you transcend yourself and what you believe is possible at the beginning of your journey, and you get really, really clear on using your imagination, what you actually desire. Not desires driven by the fact that you're still trying to prove yourself. Not desires driven by the fact that you're still looking for affirmation and validation. Not desires because your business bestie has a mastermind, so you should have a mastermind. Like legit, what do you want? What feels delicious to you? What does that look and feel like in this vision 1 to 2 years from now, right? And then who do you need to become to actualize all of that? And that's how you build.
Absolutely. And I love to lean on this word alignment, because I believe, as you're talking about and all these things, is that truly what you desire, or is that somebody else's vision? Like, is that in your
Yes.
heart and soul? Like, and really to get in tune with that. So how do you feel? Because I think we are so, and I could speak this for myself and my experience. We are so go, 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 especially ambitious women entrepreneurs, which those are your people.
Yeah.
So you could understand this. And I'm sure anybody listening to this, when you're in that go, 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 you tend to not notice when you're out of alignment. You'll feel the things that are what it feels like to be out of alignment, meaning burnout, frustration, irritability, just this lack of fulfillment. So how do you guide women to understand and really get super clear on what they're in alignment with? What would be like some of your tasks you would give those women, or steps,
So
whatever you want to
there's
call
so many things I want to say about what you're kind of putting here. The first thing is that you master slowing down.
it?
It's a requirement in my world. I literally make you take breaks throughout the day, every day, all day. And it is probably the hardest thing that an ambitious woman can do, because so much of your ambitiousness is affirming your worth. And I'm not here for that, because that just perpetuates more of the same, but maybe you mask it differently because you do some affirmations. No, this is about a full metamorphosis, right? And you're starting with the vision. We're starting with, who are you becoming? How does she walk? How does she talk? How does she show up? How does she hold boundaries? How does she make love? How does she make offers? Like, it's a whole holistic approach, and teaching you what it means to become aware. So there's a component I teach called the hologram version of you. So it is my way of guiding you into non-judgmental self-observation. So let's say you set out your big, gorgeous vision, okay, my next level, she operates in ease. Like, that is her primary state of being. She is ease. She is bliss. Okay, amazing. And then a couple days later, you're doing your thing and you're being ambitious and you're working. And then you notice, because I'm teaching you, like teaching someone how to know, it's a skill. It's a skill, right?
Absolutely.
And then you notice, ooh, my body's super tight right now, right? But ultimately, it's not you that's noticing. It's this hologram version of you that hangs with you all day, every day. And she's just chilling off to the right, and she's watching you all day. And she goes, psst, your shoulders have been up by your ears for the past hour. Isn't that interesting? You haven't peed in 2.5 hours. Isn't that interesting, right? And you literally start to non-judgmentally, which is the kicker. Because what most women do until they come hang out in my space, and I'm very proud of this, most women notice something and then beat themselves up. Notice something and go, oh, I can't believe I'm not further along. Notice something and go, God, I suck. I knew this wasn't going to work, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that's a non-starter. The only way to grow is to notice without judgment. So when you bring in this non-judgmental hologram that loves you enough to be like, hey, you've been pushing paper around and faking the funk at your desk for 4 hours, but you haven't actually pressed publish on your website. What's going on there? So slowing down and becoming the non-judgmental observer is literally how.
I love that. I remember, because I struggled with this because it's kind of in my nature. I'm a doer. I'm a very driven, ambitious woman. And, that's something to celebrate, right? Like, let's celebrate that. But on the flip side, I know I burn out And very much what you're talking about. I like to call this the power in the pause. Like, we need to really honor that pause, that time to just be opposed to just doing. And I'm in this space now to really recognize it. So I think that's bringing the awareness. Like, I know legit, like, I'll work really hard, I'll burn out. So I'm trying to catch myself before the burnout. And so I'll
Mm-hmm.
do things to like make sure I'm honoring by knowing truly what brings me joy, like what puts me into my beingness, like into my authentic nature, my feminine energy and whatnot. And I think that's really, at least what I think, it's really important to get clear on what brings you joy, what brings you back into your beingness. And so for me, it's like going out in nature, getting sunshine, going for a hike or whatnot. So I think that's a great, I mean, personally, what I always recommend. But let's talk about this ease and flow, because, it sounds all awesome. It sounds really great, right? But how, because I know, when I think alignment energy is one and the same, right? So how do we live in this energy to attract with ease and flow? What does that look like to you?
Mm. Um, it looks like releasing control,
Mm, that's
which
beautiful.
is nothing. I can speak to it because it was me. To
Mm,
know me, let's see, what is it, 2022? So 2015 me, I was one big white knuckle death grip. I was
mm,
like, internally, that's what it felt like. And externally, I was go, go, go. No space, no stopping. Get shit done. The more I do, the more valuable I am. Come on, come on, come on, come on. And there is no ease whilst being in control,
mm,
right? So really, truly releasing control. And then going back for a hot second to realize, whoa, my control is an adaptive behavior. People aren't born controlling. You become controlling because of some sort of environment or something in your first family or something that goes down. And for me, I started operating, now I understand it, I didn't obviously then, with the more I can control, the happier people around me will be. The more I can control, the more important that I am. If I can control it, I won't get hurt by it. And I had all of these little developments inside of me. And then ultimately, when you're operating in control, you are interrupting your opportunity for flow and ease. Because when you're in high levels of control, you're in zero levels of trust. Right?
it's so important. Oh,
It's huge. It's huge. And it
yeah.
calls you up into your spiritual self. It calls you up into realizing control is such an illusion.
Mhm.
Control is driven by the way we were raised and this society standards and the world that we live in, and the fact that there's so much stimulus and our nervous systems are never feeling safe because it's so freaking constant, and it's all an illusion, right? And what's real is that the universe is your safety net, and you can't screw this up if you tried. And
Mm.
what is yours no matter what you do or don't do. So you can start to learn what it means to allow and be open and just know, like, everything's working out for me.
Yeah.
And that's how you start to tap in to ease and flow.
Oh, wow. I think a lot of people listening to that right now are probably noticing maybe where they do have this habit of trying to, grip on, make it their way, and how great that feels to just like,
Like literally do, yes, to your point, do that like right now. At first of all, as you're listening to this conversation, allow yourself to notice how your body's reacting. Where's the tension? Where's the tightness? Where's the like, oh, give me more of that, right? That like exhale your body starts to do because you're like, oh, that sounds so good. But if you tighten your hands up, like grip them and tighten really, 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 really tight, and then let them go, right? And you can actually feel the energetic difference. And this is
yeah,
such a fun conversation because so many women come into my world and like, doing all the things. Why don't I have the things I want? Why isn't the manifesting, the generating, all the stuff working for me? Well, because if your inside is so constricted, it doesn't matter what you do externally. Your energy is being suppressed. Your
mm,
resonance and your frequency is being suppressed because you are internally in a state of constriction. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And as soon as you let go and you allow and you know how to give your body the safety it needs and do the beautiful parts of going within, your energetic resonance rises instantly because you're in an expanded state. You're in a trusting state. You're in a chill state.
Amazing. I love this word, and I talk about this a lot, is allowing, like allowing that space, like you need to have a little gap for things to come in for you to be able to receive. And receiving is another thing that ambitious women like have a hard time with. I don't know why, but allowing that space and being able to receive. So I think that's really huge. So another thing you speak very heavily about, which this goes hand in hand with what we're talking about and really, manifesting or bringing into existence the success or the fulfillment we desire, is of course that thing that holds us back besides the limitations, which you are an expert on this, and this is fear. And I know you have your TEDx on this and everything. And so this fear that restricts us, and we kind of touched on this earlier, but what would you say to women or men listening right now, to recognize where their fears are? Number one, that goes with like our limitations and, maybe our past and whatnot. But then how do we step forward in this trust and confidence and courage? Because again, courage is not absent of fear. It's just carrying forward with fear present, but doing it anyways. So if somebody feels a little trapped by their fears, we all have fear of not being enough, fear of not succeeding, fear of succeeding. We could go on and on. What would you say to that person really stuck in their fears and giving them the courage? Like they're right here, right now. You got
Right
it.
here, right now. So the first part to your point of like, how do you know you're in fear, is really because you are misaligned. You have a desire that hasn't actualized. You want something and you know it's your want, but you're not taking the action necessary. You hear about courage, but you still don't do the thing, right? Those are some indications to answer the first part of your question. But the most important thing that I can share right now is there is nothing wrong with you. It is not just you. There is nothing that needs to be fixed. It is an imperative that everyone shifts their perspective on fear and we stop trying to overcome it, try to push through, and try to do it anyway. These are messages that are unhelpful, overly masculine, and are truly unhealthy for our nervous systems. You're trying to push through a very gorgeous, thank God for it, biological wiring that is allowing us to have this podcast interview, because without it, we would have been dead hundreds of years ago as a people, right? Like, so what I want you to hear is your fear is biological. It is beautiful. It is wired predominantly to keep you alive. Excuse me.
God bless.
Speaking of the truth. To keep you alive. So we're going to stop being annoyed at it. We're going to stop wishing it would go away. We're going to stop trying to push through it. And instead we're going to go, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. I want you to actively express appreciation for the fact that your fear is upon you. Because if your fear is upon you, it means you're moving towards your greatness. You're doing something that is going to take you closer to actualizing that next level. If you are not experiencing fear, you're slowly dying because you're either growing or dying, which means you're just sitting in this super, super comfortable life, more than likely justifying that you're fine, but you're not. You're settling because you're afraid to use your voice, leave the marriage, start the business, do the thing. And what I'm telling you is when you get to the end of your life, there's one of two things that go down, and only one of two. You look back and you go, damn, I showed up. I failed. I succeeded. I played full out. I had a blast. I cried my eyes out. I had light moments. I had dark moments, but I lived. Yay me. I can die peacefully. Or you'll look back and you'll be like, shit. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. There's no time left. Sitting on a boatload of regret. And you are more powerful than any fear that you feel. Because when you learn how to direct your mind and your body, you become more powerful than your fear. You love the fear. When you guys go watch the TED Talks, I don't have to, it's lengthy and it's there for you. I walk you through giving your nervous system the regulation it needs, how to think more powerfully than your fear so that you can do the thing that you want to do. But it starts with fear is awesome. We love fear, right? And starting to appreciate it. That's the first place.
I love that, is changing our relationship with fear, that it is there to show us like, okay, for me to, grow, because I believe the same thing, you're either growing or dying. Like I think that is essentially what all of us should be doing. That's why the inner work, the worthiness work, and all this personal development is so, so important, because it ripples into every area of our life. Is when we feel this fear is like, oh, okay, now I'm going to conquer that. And not as like a, control, but more like, oh, this is now my permission that I can now grow on the other side, because I'm going to move through and step through that fear. I think that's really powerful. I think, this saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable, I think is really powerful, because I think that, if you're willing to do that, imagine the growth on the other side. So I think that's beautiful. And I do think everybody should listen to your TED Talk. It's great. I love it. It's powerful. I'll include it in the show notes, of course. So another thing, and to touch on, you have something called Mind Magic. If you could kind of explain what this container is, because I'm into it, right? I'm definitely like, I want to jump in. So can you share, because all the stuff we're talking about is really how you help women really step into their full potential, but not with, of course, like you said, control, more work or anything. It's more like with flow and ease and, fulfillment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's the whole point too, because what are we doing all this for? To miss out on our lives and be so over focused? And that's like, to me, that makes no sense. It's you get to build and thrive and generate whatever vision you want in your lived experience, and actually like love your day to day on the way there, right? Because that to me is success. So Mind Magic is absolutely incredible. It is a container for women leaders and entrepreneurs where we bridge spirituality, neuroscience, quantum law, metacognition, and nervous system work into one magnificent framework. And you essentially go on the path of becoming her. So that is the work that we do internally that allows you to actually actively up level, and then have all of the practices in a toolbox of proven methods anytime for the rest of time as you continue to up level. Because as we're saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. So everything becomes an identity evolution. What is the next evolution of who you're becoming? And that's what we focus on inside of Mind Magic. And it is truly nothing short of absolutely extraordinary and so proven now. Hundreds of women have been coming through this container and watching where they are, whether they're still in the container or after they have graduated out of the container. And it blows my mind. It's one of those things where I was an event planner 1,000 years ago before I was a single mother with my daughter. And I used to do weddings, bar mitzvahs, international corporate events, blah, blah, blah. And I probably have event planned hundreds of weddings during that window. And no matter how many weddings I did, when it came time to watch the beautiful couple do their first dance, I would stand in the back of the room and cry, just in complete awe of witnessing their love. And it's the same feeling I get now as every gorgeous woman comes through Mind Magic. And I watch every breakthrough as if it's the first breakthrough I have ever witnessed or ever facilitated. And it makes me cry and just like, yes, because I love to help women liberate. I love to watch you marinate and roll around in everything you told me you wanted. And like, that's my mission.
So beautiful. And it does sound so remarkable. And that's really, again, it's when you see people come to life like you did, like you were able to do for yourself through your own experience. And I know, obviously, as you were saying, which I think is beautiful because I do the same as well, like this whole podcast that I have, it's I'm on the journey with you. I'm in the classroom as well. I'm still learning. I study my guests because I care to learn. I'll read your book. I unfortunately didn't get your book in before this interview, but I would have read your book because again, I'm on this journey to learn. Like I'm doing the work like everybody listening here, because that's what I'm committed to is myself and my personal evolution. And so forgot my point to what I was saying, but well, oh yeah, what I was saying is like for you to witness that, you're like almost witnessing yourself again, like seeing yourself like, oh, I remember that feeling, to be liberated, to be stepping into my worth, and it is such a gift. Like, you know, it saddens me so much that we all struggle with this. And again, I think so many people, you know, everybody struggles with some sort of worthiness. We really
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah.
You know, lack of I'm not enoughness. That's like the common. I'm not enough, or I won't be loved. And so we all struggle with it. So this work is important. And what you're sharing today alone is super powerful. Just the idea of like you releasing control, like that's a big one. And I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people should reflect on that. I know that's totally me. I'm definitely like a self-control freak. Not anymore. I think I've loosened that grip a little bit. I like to think of surrendering and just letting go of this attachment of everything working out exactly as I planned, instead having that faith and self-trust that everything is going to work out to my highest beingness and where I'm supposed to head in life, where God has planned for me. So I think that's really powerful in itself. So I love everything you're sharing today. If you were to leave, actually, before I ask my like closing question,
Yeah.
uh, what do you feel is something that just women that you work with today, what's their biggest struggle that they come to? Like, what is the biggest, because I know we always, obviously there's that worthiness, but if you were to look at all your clients, what do you think is the main common denominator that women, especially ambitious entrepreneurs, struggle with? And it might be worthiness, but I'm
Well,
curious.
well, here's the thing. Yes, but nobody really realizes that's the thing. Most ambitious women that have hit external levels of success aren't aware that what lies at the root is a worth issue. That what lies at the root of your inability to receive, because I teach receivership too, is a worth issue, right?
Mm.
So really, I think what it feels like to the client before they do the work is a combination of I have all the success and I still don't feel how I thought I would feel at this point. Right? Like, okay, how many carrots do I need to chase? Right? And I've created the success, but there's no world where I can keep going at this run rate and not hit burnout,
Mm-hmm.
not end up in the hospital, not hit adrenal fatigue, right? I want all the things that I say I want, and I have a more inside of me that I have barely scratched the surface on, but like, where are more hours in the day and how can I possibly do it? And what that is it feels like initially most women believe it's going to be an external fix. Like you go buy a time management course,
Mm-hmm.
useless. It's an internal opportunity. It's a going within call.
And so, being that you say that, what would be the way to unblock that if they're, you know, they feel they need to, you know, that they don't have all the time or the resources. Let's talk about money in there. Don't have the
Yeah.
time or the resources to obtain what they want, and so they're like running against the, you know, the wheel, just trying to like
Yeah.
more time, more money.
Yeah, you do. And the more the not enough time, not enough resources is not real. It's widely accepted because everybody says it. It's not true and it's not real. And if you honor your purpose, everything else follows and flows. And if you remember how I define purpose, that's what I mean. Do the
Yeah.
work, invest in yourself, because you're not going to be happier to generate what you want, to have the impact, to build the wealth, to have the orgasms, to create chill, empowered children. Because most of the women I work with are also mothers and entrepreneurs, right? Don't come at me and ask me how you help your child if you are not investing in yourself. Don't do it. Right? So that's what it comes down to. Like, and especially as we have this conversation, this generation we are in, if you are alive and you are listening to this conversation, you are alive during the consciousness revolution. It is your divine responsibility to show up and work on yourself. It is the only way that we are going to leave this magnificent place a better place for the generations after us. And that's what we're really supposed to be doing here. How do we make this world better? By working on ourselves, by changing ourselves, by creating the ripple effect that occurs when you're now building your business through total ease. And the women that look at you, they go, wait a minute, she's not working all weekend. She's not killing herself. Whoa. Because what happens is we observe each other and we model and we become blanket permission slips for everybody around us. So if you're subscribing to patriarchal ways of being and old school ways of operating, then you're only going to perpetuate that in the world around you. So the answer is come invest in yourself. Come do the work. It's magic.
I love that. That's so great. Well, I'm definitely going to plug everything in the show notes. Where could people best find you, just for those listening on YouTube? Of course, everything will be in the show notes.
Awesome. Thelittfactor.com. So it's the lit with two T's, LITT factor.com. And Instagram from a social perspective is a great place to hang with us at the Lit Factor.
Amazing. Your last name is just so divinely orchestrated.
Oh my God. The amount of times that I thank my father in any given month is like ridiculous. I'm just like, Dad, really? Thank you. Like, what a name. What a name.
That's remarkable. I love it. I love it. Well, let me just ask you, in closing off, in my question that I ask all my guests. So if you were to leave a piece of wisdom for anybody that you feel needs to hear this today, a life lesson that you've learned along on your journey, what would that piece of wisdom be?
Stop taking everything seriously. You're creating a self-inflicted pressure that doesn't exist. Lighten up. Lighten up. Be silly. Be playful. That's the answer to everything.
I love that. It's so simple, but so true. Is like we're whole, you know, like you said, like your shoulders are raised, you're tense, you're gripping, you're like, and go play.
Like,
Go.
right. And for what? It's just because we're conditioned. I mean, think about what we're told. Be realistic, be responsible, take this seriously. It's like, no, why? Why? Unless I'm literally in the midst of like a legitimate life or death moment where I'm hanging off a cliff, why am I taking anything serious? Nothing in what I do in the world, my business, my messaging, the way I help my clients. I'm always like, the only thing I will be serious about is you being less serious. That's it.
I love that. I love it. So powerful. So good. Well, Tracy, this has been such an honor. I know I could talk to you for the whole day because you share, I just feel in synergy of everything you share, and this work is so important. And, you know, I'm in it for a lifetime myself. And so just thank you for everything you're doing, and you're really impacting so many women. And it was an honor to share the space with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.